In today's video, I want to talk about why I have issues with gaining weight, and just a trigger warning that there will be some discussion of EDs and other body image issues and things like that in this video. So if you find that triggering, please feel free to click off of this video, and I will see you in another one. So I don't know why I just got a giant influx of anxiety to talk about this, but let's get into it. So, my entire life, I'm thinking like all the way back to maybe first grade, people have always told me, you're too thin, or you need to eat more, or you're not eating enough, or rumors of me having an ED in terms of restriction. I don't want to mention like specific words that are going to get flagged by YouTube for this video because I think it's an important discussion. And if I do mention these specific terms, the video will probably just be squashed and nobody will see it. So restrictive eating and things like that, purging, things like that, things that people, even in my own family, were worried about. They were always worried that I wasn't consuming enough or anything like that because I'm so thin. Both of my parents are incredibly thin as well. My dad was even shorter than me and weighed significantly less. And my mom is also quite small. But basically what I've experienced my entire life is that even when my mom was pregnant with me, there was a bunch of health issues and her health was extremely impaired because of carrying me. And right from the beginning, right when I was born, I've had lots of health issues. I was in the hospital for my teeth, even teeth that had not come in yet, was always in the hospital with dental infections and all sorts of different things. I had lots of health problems as a child. I had seizures as a baby. I would be constipated for like a month at a time, even as just a baby. And then trying to get me to eat all different kinds of normal foods was an issue as a small child, and I was very fussy and did not want to eat meat. Then, flash forward a couple of years, I should mention though, my entire young childhood, like up until 5 years old, was growing up in poverty, and I don't think that the information about nutrition was as widely known back then. Even 20 years ago, especially for raising children and how important it is to make sure that they get all of their nutrition and stuff, and especially for impoverished families, it's just hard to do that. And when that is the situation for a child, I feel like it has a severe impact on their digestive health and what kinds of foods they're able to tolerate and eat for the rest of their life. And it also impacts and influences your allergies, and because of growing up in poverty and not being a healthy, nourished child, I had lots of problems with allergies growing up and still develop all of these allergies to this day. But after about 5 years old, I was kidnapped and was very, very impoverished and very malnourished from about 5 years old until about 11. I would say that I didn't think that I was malnourished or anything. That was just my normal life. But to know that a child was malnourished from like 5 to 11 years old, that's going to have an impact on your life and your digestive system and what kinds of foods you can tolerate and all of those kinds of things. But at 11 years old, about that time, when I was returned to live with my mom, we were not living so much in poverty. There was always food, and there was always dinner on the table. There was always breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was not allowed to go to school unless I ate like a full breakfast and was like so full I could puke. And then I definitely was not allowed to go to school without a lunch, and I had to eat a massive dinner, and nobody was allowed to leave the table until you ate your dinner. And so I was definitely not being underfed or anything like that. And those are the years like going into puberty and everything like that. Meanwhile, you're at school and all of the kids are incredibly critical when you're in middle school and when you're in high school and all of those years. And so I was bullied unrelentingly about my size. I was always picked on for being the skinny kid, the scrawny kid, the 80-pound weakling. Any of those things. I was incredibly skinny and small, and those problems at school and everybody pointing that out all the time at school and telling me that I had an ED and that I didn't eat and that I need to go have a Big Mac or eat a sandwich, even when I'm sitting there eating in front of them. And on the same time that they're telling me that I must have an ED, everybody's like, wow, you eat so much food, and they think that I'm not eating. Didn't make sense. Confused my little brain. But at around 12 years old, I started eating like 2, 3, 4 times the amount of food that a small adolescent should be eating, because I developed such an issue with my body image and felt that it was so wrong to be this small and this skinny and that I needed to be bigger. And then I saw all of these teenagers around me going into high school and everybody was filling out and gaining all of this muscle, and the majority of my friends by 10th grade when I started high school were all on the football team, and I was this like tiny little weakling that couldn't do anything athletic at all. And I feel like around that time is when my body image issues were getting the worst. But I was consuming 4, 5, 6,000 calories a day. I was eating breakfast, eating lunch that I packed, plus buying a lunch from the cafeteria. Then after school, my best friend Haley and I would often go to Subway and get a foot-long sub, and then go across the street to Wendy's and get an entire combo from Wendy's with like 4 junior bacon cheeseburgers. And then we would go home to her house and have dinner at 6 o'clock, or I would go home and have my dinner at home, and then I would just eat all of my dinner, even though I was full already. And even after eating all of that food, consuming so much, every single night at dinner, I had to hear from everybody at my family, oh my God, you are the A word, you don't eat, you're starving, whatever it is. And so my body image issues were horrible, but it was just a weird, ironic twist to think that everybody thought that I was struggling from one ED that was very restrictive and that I wasn't eating or anything. But in reality, I was eating so much more food than any of my peers. I was eating way more calories than a child that size, a teen, an adolescent that size needs to be eating. But my body was just not taking in the nutrients. I was not getting any bigger. And when you grow up really, really thin, everybody just always says, oh, you have a high metabolism. Like your parents tell you, it's just a high metabolism then. Like if you're eating all of this food and you swear that you're not doing anything with the food, and you're not on any drugs or anything, there's no other reason for this, then you must just have a really high metabolism. And so that's what I went with. Then I went to college and I went to performing school. I was preparing to be an actor in my first year. And if I thought my body image issues were horrible when I went there, well, then they just 10x'd, because everything was about making sure that you had to look like the perfect masculine man, and you also had to present that way in all of your auditions and throughout your entire career, or else you would never be able to work. And so they were very hard on all of us, like, thin Twinkie boys, especially that were like 18, 19 years old. They're like, you need to go to the gym, you need to bulk up. And then I went to musical theater school, and it was the same thing again, training in ballet and training in dance. All of the boys, you need to go bulk up. The girls, I think, had it even worse, like the body image stuff that was projected upon them when I was in college. But my experience as a boy was always, you guys need to go to the gym 5 times a day. You need to be 5 times a day, 5 times a week. You need to be lifting weights. You need to be eating really, really well, get lots of protein. But you guys need to look like men. And so my body image issues were just getting even more horrible going to college. And then in ballet, for the first time in my life, I had to wear spandex, and I had to wear a dance belt, and I had to wear clothing that hugged every single curve of my body that I was so incredibly insecure about. And it was around this time that I just was working out so much. I was eating so much food, and I was not gaining any weight. I felt sick all of the time. I knew there was clearly something wrong with my digestion, because anybody else that was putting in half the effort or eating half the calories was able to gain weight, and it wasn't a problem. And I was like, can this really just be a fast metabolism? Because everybody in the health community and the doctors were telling you that if you want to gain weight or if you want to lose weight, it's calories in, calories out. And I'm like, well, where are all of my calories going? Because I'm putting them in, but they're not turning into anything. They're just going right out. And so 2 things occurred at around this point in my journey, is that I started to realize I definitely have some food intolerances and some digestive issues. It's getting to the point that anytime I would eat before going to dance class, I would try and have like the biggest meal and eat really nice, nutritionally dense meals, or even space them out a couple hours before I went into class just to make sure everything could settle in and digest before I went to class. Every single day I would be so sick. I would feel like I'm going to pass out. I would have no energy. My teachers, again, in college were looking at me like, is this man eating? Are you restricting your food? Why are you so thin? Like, they were all worried about me. Nobody really wanted to address it directly, but they would beat around the bush. And it just wasn't the case. And so my entire life at this point, it was like, why does everybody think that I'm restricting my food and that I'm not eating and that I want to be waif thin, when in reality, my entire life I've been plagued by being thin and just want to be big and muscular like everybody keeps telling me that I need to be. It was at this point that I started kind of taking a step back and looking at what I'm eating and questioning whether, like, the Canada's Food Guide was actually the best way to eat, or if maybe vegan was better for me, or maybe pescatarian, where you just eat vegan and seafood and things like that. And around this time, my mom was finding out that she was incredibly intolerant to wheat, and she stopped eating wheat and gluten, and that made an incredible difference to her life and her health and her energy levels and everything like that. And she was able to get her weight to a healthy point as well and all of those things. So I started thinking, aha, if this is my mom and she's having all of these issues, then maybe these might be the same issues that I'm having. And I've tried a bunch of different things. It's really hard to change your diet completely and pull a 180 when you are a full-grown adult, but that is what you have to do if you are focused on your health and really want to actually make a difference. But yeah, it has really not been calories in, calories out for me. I have eaten way too many calories, worked out way too much, and just felt like I wasn't eating because my body was not taking in the nutrition. I've dealt with anemia, and it just doesn't make sense when you're taking that many calories in, which is why you have to look at your digestion and take a deeper look at what's going on and see if perhaps your body is destroying its digestive system by all of the food that you're consuming that it is not able to digest. And once you are able to find all of those foods that are harming your digestive system and stuff like that, then you're able to heal your digestive system a bit more, and your body is able to then absorb more of these nutrients. So therefore, you're not going to have to need to eat 6,000 calories a day and still not put on any weight. Like, I was eating a raw vegan diet and was realizing that on this most restrictive diet that I'd ever been on, I was eating still about the same amount of calories in a day, but I was feeling so much better. I had so much more energy, and I was actually able to gain weight. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Where's the protein? How does this add up? But it was because for once in my life, my diet was so simple that my body was actually able to absorb these nutrients. And I would not recommend a raw vegan diet for anybody, and I don't think it's sustainable. Some people will say that it is. I think that it could be for some people if you really know the science behind it and make sure that you're getting absolutely everything that you need. But for me, that was not something I could do long term. So I'm still figuring out what foods are irritants for me, and still figuring out which foods need to be eliminated from my diet in order for me to heal. Throughout my adolescent and early adult years, I started developing so many allergies just popping up left, right, and center to like every single different kind of fruit, cherries, plums, peaches, nectarines, apricots, anything that had a pit in it, except for mangoes. But then I found out later that mangoes are a FODMAP, and I'm sensitive to most FODMAPs, so it's been a journey because I'm sensitive to most foods. But for me, it's just so irritating to still be told at this point in my life, you just need to eat more. You're just not eating enough. Double your calories. If 4,000 didn't work, try 6,000. That is not the answer. Being so sick and slaving your life away to just eating all day long is not the answer to gaining weight. If you really are focused on putting on weight and gaining muscle or any of those things, you really need to understand how your body works and what nutrients are best, or what kind of foods are best designed for your body to absorb those nutrients, because it really doesn't matter what you're putting into your body if it can't absorb any of that. But going back though, the second thing that happened at around this time in my college experience was that I started valuing my body for what it could do, not what it looked like. And realizing that I was so privileged to finally have this opportunity to dance and to train and do these things that I wanted to do my entire life. I'd been in love with ballet since I was like 3 years old, gymnastics since I was like 3 years old. I really wanted to do these things. I just couldn't. And noticing that my body had the ability to do so many things for ballet, contortion, gymnastics that other people didn't have the privilege to do. And so instead of looking around me at every single one of these muscular guys and all of these guys that I thought are going to have it so much easier in this industry and so much easier as a dancer, as an actor, just in life, because they're able to put on muscle and they're able to have this ideal physique, that I was one of the people that was able to have the physique that was designed for dancing and designed to do these physical arts. And that I was actually blessed to have this mobility and to have this small frame, like to be nimble and to be able to actually do these things that other people couldn't do, especially at like 30 years old. So I feel like it was a very, very long journey of learning to love my body. Where I'm at right now, and learning to love my body for what it can do, and that it is keeping me alive and keeping me going, and that it's brought me everywhere in this life. But that my body is definitely more than the aesthetics. What I'm at right now, though, is that I would like to put on more muscle mass for my foundation of my body and the longevity of my health. And for me, it is more important, this journey of finding out which foods are still an irritant to my digestive system and which foods are causing me all of these health issues and the anemia and these giant bags under my eyes, and figuring out why these foods are all causing these problems, and figuring out which foods my body can easily ingest. It's not so much about gaining weight or anything, but I would love to be able to figure out the diet portion first, figure out which foods I can actually healthfully eat without feeling sick, and that my body's going to easily digest, and turn those nutrients into something productive instead of just crapping them all out. And that is where I'm at on my journey. I would like to hopefully gain maybe 10, 20 pounds of muscle, but I can't focus on the aesthetic part of that until I've really got the eating portion under control. And I've been eating enough. I've been still getting the proper amount of calories in a day. I don't think I drink anywhere near enough water. Got a serious coffee addiction. But when it comes to finding out which foods are actually still good for me and which foods my body can easily ingest and digest, I'm still working on that. Still learning about FODMAPs and learning about gluten intolerances and wheat intolerances and all of these other digestive irritants. So it's a good time, but it's a journey, and I'm thankful to know and to be grateful that I can embrace my body at any size that I am for what it's able to do for me now and not for just what it looks like. But that is where I'm at. Just want to share this video with you guys. I hope you found this video useful or inspiring or just entertaining to listen to. Who knows? Maybe you just want to get to know me a little bit better. But that is it for today's video. So as always, make sure to be weird, be wild, and stay sparkly. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.